What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on D's Analysis. We're going to be looking at Coinbase today. We're going to be looking at some indicators, and we're going to be looking at a couple indicators and some price action. So when you take a look at this overall chart, we've been in this large channel for an extended period of time now. It's been established since roughly July, if you want to take this candle, these two candles and wicks into consideration. So we've had 3 touches underneath on the bottom of this channel, and up top we've had 2 touches so far. So that opens up the likelihood of us seeing this 3rd touch potentially. Doesn't mean it has to play out, but you have to be open to that idea of us pushing there and then potentially seeing the bottom of the channel if the trend were to continue. Of course, things can always change. We can break through, retest, and then push up higher. So it does not have to play out like that. But price action is looking super bullish. As you can see here, we had this range that we were trading in for an extended period of time. We broke underneath it, broke back above it, fell underneath again, and now we're back above. So we also have to take that trend into consideration. Now we broke out of this trend 3 times, to the downside, to the upside, and to the downside. Of course, we can push the channel out further if we wanted to, but keeping all things the same and where price typically is, this is primarily the channel here. But we are outside of it. We didn't really get much of a retest. We had a little move down, but we didn't actually retest on it, and we skyrocketed up from there. We did break out of this upward sloping trend line, which is a key level as well. As you can see here, it was acting as resistance, support, support, resistance, support, fell through, resistance, and now we broke back through. So maybe the other possibility would be touching this top of the channel and then finding support there, and then maybe touching the channel again before falling off. Who knows? Of course, this is going to probably be tied into, the crypto cycles, and if Bitcoin's getting slaughtered, then this may be going down as well, because Bitcoin and altcoins would be falling, and of course this is Coinbase. But overall, things are looking extremely bullish. We've had minor pullbacks, as you can see here on the chart. If you look on the larger scale here, you can see that pushed all the way up here, and we pulled back to the 236, which is an extremely bullish sign. The higher you are on the sequence, the more bullish it is. So a 236 pullback is more bullish than a 382. 382 is more bullish than the 0.5 to 618. But this is the golden zone down here, and we didn't even come close to it. We just had the most bullish retest and absolutely skyrocketed it up higher. So if we were to pull it all the way up here, if we were to pull back to the 236, then that would be looking at 324. If we pulled back to 382, that would actually coincide with that upward sloping trend line, which is the middle of this channel. That would line up with the 382, which would be at around 290 if we saw something like that. And of course, if we saw the 0.5, it would be a little bit lower. But that would kind of make sense if we were to touch the 382 and continue up even higher. That would really make a lot of sense, because that would be a retest of that upward sloping trend line, which we haven't really had a retest of this level of support or the upward sloping trend line. So keep that in mind. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could potentially happen. And if we made it all the way up to the top of the channel and then pulled back, it would line up with the golden zone at the 0.5 if we were to touch the midline of this trend line. But things are looking incredibly bullish right now Things are looking incredibly bullish right now for Coinbase. When we take a look here on the SMAs, we have the 20 pushing up against the 50. So hopefully we get the flip. Last time we saw the 20 break above the 50 was down here in this region. And you can see what happened after that fact right there. That was a very large move, as you can see here. From that point on, we ran up around 380%. Not saying that that's going to happen, but if that were to happen from this point on, and we measured from here, 380% would take us to much higher targets. So not saying that that's going to happen at all, but it is just to show you that we could see higher prices when we get this push up here. Now remember, moving averages are delayed. So what you're seeing now is what is already happening. This move here is probably what you're seeing here, and so on. So it's a lagging indicator. And on the daily, we have the 50 pushing above the 200, which is extremely bullish as well. Last time we saw that, we had a nice move up as well, and then we fell off after the fact. So let's see what happens. Maybe we push up higher and then we fall off. But when we actually had the physical cross, it actually had its pullback before touching the top of it. So it's kind of happening a little bit sooner because this is a more steep run up. But let's see, if it were to play out exactly the same, it kind of chopped and then pushed up. So maybe it would be something like chopping here and then making that way up and then falling off. But the moving averages are looking incredibly bullish right now. And when we take a look at the weekly RSI, we are almost at the overbought territory. We had a nice inverse head and shoulders play out. I mean, perfect textbook head and shoulders. You can see that here. You have your left shoulder, your head, right shoulder, and then boom. Measure target is much higher, of course. You measure from the neckline to the head, and that would give you much higher targets. So maybe we get a nice overbought move like that, and Coinbase sees higher prices. On the daily, we have an established trend to the upside, higher highs and higher lows, looking very good. And we're finding potentially a bounce off of this yellow trend line, moving average, and potentially going to make it back into overbought territory here on the daily RSI. On the weekly MACD, we're incredibly bullish, showing momentum to the upside, kicking up, and we're seeing the blue moving average start to really separate from the orange, and it's really just absolutely taking off. So there's a lot of momentum right now behind Coinbase. In here on the daily, we've been pretty bullish for an extended period. At this point, we've been in bullish territory all the way since April 25th, and we've been holding pretty bullish right now. We had a push up, little sideways action, and I wouldn't imagine that we go down from here. I could only see us really going up, at least temporarily. This is probably a minor pullback to reset and continue the trend higher. Slight divergence here on the MACD. When you take a look here at price, you can see that we've put on a nice little trend to the downside here. And here on the MACD, we're just pretty much sideways. So you can see that divergence happening here on the daily MACD. So maybe the price is stronger than it's showing right here. This minor pullback is really just a cool off period before we continue higher, because the MACD is showing incredible strength right now. Overall though, Coinbase is a nice addition to your portfolio. You want a dollar cost average into this over 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Just slowly DCA in. Solid company right now. They are the main, crypto exchange for the average person. So I always think it's a good idea to be where the mainstream is at. That's where most of the capital is going to flow into. This is never financial advice. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.